Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, and I'm continuing my season. It's been a long season, must be said. I'm dragging this out, dragging my heels on this, must be said, of David Fincher movies. So I've done a few of his already. This is the one I think I was probably least looking forward to getting to, so it's kind of why I'm doing it now. I thought, let's just get it out of the way. Because when I first saw this film, which is, of course, A Curious Case of Benjamin Button, or The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. For those who don't know, obviously, this is the story of a man who is, well, he's born in an old man kind of body, and he starts to grow young. But he doesn't have the faculties of an old man when he's in the old man body. So it's basically a child in an old man's body working his way to being an old man in a child's body, which is quite interesting because it's a film about how, I guess, age and the breakdown, the natural process of the way the human body goes from a young person to an old person, kind of, it's stages of life that are necessary for the human condition, I guess. Like if you look at the way people treat Benjamin Button, played by Brad Pitt, very well, must be said. The old people treat him when he's a young man. They treat him like he's an old man because he's in an old man looking body. So they do things with him that is really irresponsible. At one point, one guy takes him to this, there's no other word for it, a brothel. And it's just like, well, actually, you're kind of taking a kid to a brothel there. But he thinks nothing of it because he doesn't make that connection in the brain that this is a young boy, because he's looking at an older man. So that's quite interesting. I think there's some interesting things there about fate, destiny, the will of God, if you want to call it that. I think the scene that sticks out most for me, the one that kind of, for whatever reason, just stayed lodged in my brain after I came out of the film, was the scene in which Cate Blanchett's character is crippled. So she's hit by a car, and we have this narration of what happened there, and it turns what is kind of a bit of just a fact of life moment, a tragedy, whatever. It turns it into a much more focused moment in which you start to think about all the possibilities of, well, if this one person hadn't have done this one thing, just a minor thing, not even anything particularly big, but come out of a door at a slightly different time, 2 seconds earlier or 2 seconds later, then Blanchett's character wouldn't have been hit by a car. And it does kind of, it makes you think about all the little, I guess, butterfly effect kind of events, where actually, do things happen for a reason? It's almost like there was a grand design there. When you watch all of this stuff unfolding, and you eventually see Blanchett getting hit by this car, when she gets hit by the car, because of everything that's led up to it in this whole section, you kind of feel like it's almost predetermined, like it's destiny, like it's the will of God, like it's meant to happen. And it makes you think about all the moments in your own life, I guess, where stuff has happened, bad stuff, or things you'd consider to be bad, and you kind of think, well, where does that leave you? How does that shape your life? And so, yeah, that's just for me. I mean, if you've seen the film, you might not have got that from that scene. You might have just thought it was, whatever. But, we bring our own subjective experience and thought processes to it. And for me, that's kind of what hit me as I was watching that scene. Now, the problem with the film, one of the problems with the film, because it's not perfect, it must be said, is that it does feel very episodic. It's written by Eric Roth, who wrote Forrest Gump, another film that, to be quite honest, does feel pretty episodic. A very similar film as well. This does feel a lot like Forrest Gump. You can tell it's the same writer. But both films are stories about an individual, a man, who suffers from some kind of affliction that makes them different to most other people in society, but they kind of rise above that to become their own person, their own, individual. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It does so many things better than Forrest Gump for me. Like the direction by Fincher, for a start, is just immaculate. The special effects. I mean, granted, this is like nearly 2 decades after Forrest Gump, so of course the special effects are going to be better. Effects on Forrest Gump were groundbreaking at the time, but it's just the attention to detail that Fincher takes with any of his movies is just astounding. And you look at the detail here, what he does with the visual effects work, all the stuff with Brad Pitt's characters is really, it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. And I do think that Fincher it's one of his strong suits when it comes to effects. When you see a visual effect in Fincher's movies, more often than not, you don't even realise it. You don't know you're watching a visual effect, because a lot of the time most of the time, probably all the time, in fact, he uses it to shape the narrative, to just add flavour. Whereas he's not a big budget blockbuster tentpole summer kind of movie where he's throwing special effects at the screen for the sake of it and wants to blow stuff up so people can eat the popcorn. He's interested in narrative. He's interested in the story, and if special effects can somehow hold that story up or guide it in some way, then he'll use them. And I feel like that's just the case here. So the effects work fantastic throughout. The performances, for the most part, are all really incredible. I think Tilda Swinton I enjoy in this. She pops up in a very small role. I'm not sure I like it's kind of one of those Hollywood tropes where someone has a partner that isn't particularly paying attention to them, or their life isn't great, so it's almost like the film is willing you, the audience, to will them to have an affair of some description and stuff. So I'm not that keen on that element, but I do like Tilda Swinton in the role. I like what she brings. I like her performance. And just the idea of these two people meeting at night, every night, over the course of so many weeks. It's just, and I like that element that two strangers can get together, be friends, offer something to each other that they need at that time. I just don't think it needs to go down the route of any kind of sexual liaison, but that's just me. I do find that Cate Blanchett's character still kind of leaves me cold a little bit for the most part. I find that, as with Forrest Gump and Jenny, the character of Jenny, I feel like Eric Roth writes these girlfriend type characters for the main characters as quite cold people, manipulative in many ways. Blanchett's character in this, not quite to the degree of Jenny in Forrest Gump, but still a character that I can't quite fall in love with. I think I do warm to Blanchett's character towards the end of the film, which is why it's why I'm not totally taken out of it. It doesn't ruin it for me. It's just, it takes me a while to get there. But when she finally kind of gives of herself at the end to essentially see Benjamin out of the world, like when he eventually goes back to being a baby. Although I don't quite understand why he goes back to being a baby, because when he comes out, he's the size of a baby but like an old man. So technically, when he dies, or when he on his way out, surely he should be the size of an old man but looking youthful as a baby. I don't get the science of that one, but so I warm to her a bit more during those scenes when she shows up to take care of him and kind of acknowledge him, I suppose, in a way that perhaps she should have done more of previously. But like I say, again, it's that age thing, meeting in the middle and going back. There's no way these two could have had a real kind of relationship, romantically speaking. I do think overall, and I'm sure many people will disagree here, I think this film is, for me, subjectively speaking, a better experience than Forrest Gump. I think because we're stepping into the realm of fantasy, because we've got this man with a condition that obviously doesn't exist, and it allows us to explore certain facets of life. I think I can get on board with it more. Whereas obviously with Forrest Gump, you're looking at a man with autism or whatever it is that he's got. It feels very Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder-esque. You know, it pushes that boundary of possibly good taste. I don't know, but it's harder for me to get on board with Forrest Gump, I think, than it is with this film, because we know that this is fantasy. So that's the only way I can explain it. I also think that Brad Pitt's performance in this is a much more measured performance than Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. Obviously, get why that is. Completely different characters with completely different issues. But yeah, I find that Brad Pitt throughout this, very understated, and I warm to him quite a lot as a central character. Just this guy who is coasting through life, not in a lazy, I can't be bothered kind of way, but just he's just soaking it up. He doesn't have the same kind of expectations placed upon him because of, you know, the way that he was born and the way that he's kind of traveling through existence. And I think as a result of that, he doesn't place the same kind of expectations on himself that most other people do. So he's just this guy who is experiencing life, taking what he can from each moment, and yeah, just slowly enjoying it. And I like that. I like that about the character. It is quite a bum-numbing running time. It's a 3-hour film. I'm not quite sure it needed to be 3 hours. Like I say, it gets quite episodic, so certain parts of the film feel a lot more rewarding and a lot more engrossing than other parts of the film. And for me, the stuff like when he goes away to sea and he spends time with his captain, again, Captain Dan springs to mind. It is basically it's Forrest Gump back too. But so he falls in with his captain, goes trawling with him. I kind of like all that stuff. I like the relationship there with that captain. I like the little episode with Tilda Swinton's character. But then the back end of the film has more stuff with Blanchett's character, and that's when I kind of I fall out of touch with it a little bit and start to feel that running time. But like I say, because of that episodic nature, it's a film that's quite hard to pin down with regards to what it's trying to say. It's a film that's almost saying a lot of different things, but not necessarily one specific thing because of that episodic nature. I mean, the tagline of the film is, you know, life isn't measured in minutes, it's measured in moments. So clearly that is a vibe they're going for. It is, you know, the episodic nature is something that is very intentional. It's just, yeah, it kind of makes the film like focus. But I guess that's life, you know, that's what life is. You know, when you take one man's life, a real person, not a film narratively driven kind of person, one man's life can't be summed up in one sentence as to what it meant. You know, our lives are filled with moments that mean different things at different times in different ways. So yeah, I guess it is a more realistic snapshot of someone's life in that respect. You got a lot of talent in this film as well, really grade A talent that, you know, when it came out wasn't necessarily well known. You know, like people who've gone on to really great things since, like Mahershala Ali, obviously, Taraji P. Henson, Ella Fanning, you know, who's very young in this. So it's littered throughout. Elias Cotes, littered throughout with really great actors, you know, like Tilda Swinton as well, I've already mentioned. So if you just want to see something that, you know, if you want to see a film that is, yeah, grade A Hollywood talent, definitely a good film to watch. So this was my second watch, and I gotta say, like, you know, as I've already said, it did go up quite a bit in in my estimation. My original watch, I probably would have given it a 3-star rating. This time around, I'm going to bump that up to a 4. I enjoyed it a lot more. I got a lot more warmth from it. I felt there was a lot more humanity to it this time around that perhaps I wasn't keyed into when I first watched it. Again, like I say, gets a bit episodic. It takes me an awful long time to warm up to Blanchett's character. So other than that, it is very good. It's very well directed. I think anyone who's seen Forrest Gump and loves Forrest Gump may be lukewarm to this. I don't know. They may just pass this off as a Forrest Gump rip-off. But personally, because I've never been huge on Forrest Gump, but I am pretty huge on David Fincher, I watched this. And for me personally, I think I would rather watch this again than go and revisit Forrest Gump. So 4 out of 5 from me. But what about you? Have you seen Curious Case of Benjamin Button? What did you think about it? Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching this video. And until next time, crack in.